All the way back to Dead Cell's roots with a good old-fashioned turret run. Even got the Horde Zero head on to complete the look. Double Crossb-o-matic is the most basic of the turrets, but much like I realized with the Balance Blade, it is still one of the best. And the funny thing about a run like this is that you could technically consider this to be a pacifist run. I will not be attacking anything at all during the course of this, barring an accidental dive attack or getting the Super Mario mode necklace for the 3rd run in a row. That said, I don't think anyone is going to buy the "it wasn't me, it was the automatic turret I set up" as justification for having that as the title of the video. No, I'll pull that out for Mushroom Boy or the Great OO of War run. But hey, that's how you do pacifist runs in my favorite game of all time, NetHack. You just get a high-ranking angel buddy to do the dirty work for you. And are you going to argue with how NetHack judges conduct? No, of course you won't. How about a little Castlevania action this time? This was a mistake, as you can see. Yeah, this build has some shortcomings. Tactics runs are one of the more difficult in general, being glass cannon and dodging/range focused builds. With only a single turret, I'm losing out on the whole cannon part of the build, making enemies take that much longer to kill. Add in skills being unable to get rally, and that means that any damage I take is going to be both massive and difficult to restore. And I will be taking damage, whether that's because of the usual Dead Cell's misplays or other difficulties due to the nature of the run. Here, you can see that. While enemies that teleport to me can be easily guided to the turret, Throw Masters and other non-teleporting enemies like Inquisitors are just going to be hanging around in the background, constantly lobbing attacks at me. Easy to take care of if I had a main hand weapon, but... turret. I can't believe the librarian from Castlevania is dead. Honestly, not too bad of a fight this time. Mimic is not too hard if you're focused entirely on dodging around. It doesn't have too many attacks that can hit the turret, and I don't seem to be taking too much damage from its special attacks. I don't know why that was. I'm certainly taking a lot of damage from every other source. Also gets me a nice powerful turret, even though single turret, again, it's not that impressive, especially at this point in the game. Ooh, look at you past me, going for death as the first boss fight. Let's hope that name doesn't turn out to be portentous. Despite the difficulties, I do have a lot more build options this time around. Turrets and deployables of any kind have a whole set of different affixes that make self-synergies possible. Ideally, I would get a cause enemies poison or bleed, and then a plus damage affix to complement it. On deploy, destroy affixes also will work well for this, although due to the temporary nature of them, it means it's less effective in longer fights. Bosses. I'm talking about bosses. I'm really worried about bosses just in general, of course. I'll actually want to save up some money for affix rolls in this run, something I never remember to do when playing this game normally. Around this time, another problem starts to come up, though. Malaise. Single turret, being less powerful, means that it takes more time to kill just about anything in this run. There's also a 10-second cooldown to deploy the turret, leaving more waiting around. And then, on top of all of that, with high Malaise, enemies are constantly spawning in and turning into elites. So I'm pretty much going to be maxed out by Biome 3 regardless. That sort of slow gameplay, combined with the fact that I'm just dodging around in a circle most of the time, that going up and down levels of height to make sure that enemies are constantly teleporting to me, makes this even better of a candidate for a super edited video than normal. Anyway, death. So the main thing I struggle with when it comes to fighting death is that very quick anti-melee explosion attack that they do, which, if I'm always at a good range due to having the turret, shooting, well, unless I go roll directly into death to try and put down a turret, it doesn't really matter nearly as much. The homing orbs also sort of an issue, but as long as you're paying attention and making sure that you are getting out of the way when death starts up that attack, which is always after throws scythe, or just kind of as a random attack on... Come on now. Again, that's the one thing I should be dodging the best here. Yeah, after throwing a scythe, or just kind of as a random attack on... whenever it feels like it. Not too bad. No, the real issue with this fight comes in with the mini-sides. So, with a mini scythe, normally what you do is you just use your main hand to hit him down. It's simple. However, I can't make the turret target the mini scythes. Best I can do is kind of get the turret, get like the mini scythes in between the turret trying to shoot at death, which is easier said than done. I mean, yeah, you really think that I can plan out where I'm putting down the turret most of the time here? No, I'm just throwing it down on the ground and hoping for the best, really. Oh, and then they just hang around everywhere, constantly dodging into them, all that sort of stuff. It's really annoying in this fight. Really, the main thing that makes it so that I could do this fight so much better on just about, and especially if I took out a ranged weapon with any other weapon. You would think that going the non-Castlevania route back up to the boss would be easier. Wrong. It's the same problems everywhere, which I say as if it didn't take 12 attempts to even get that first run going. This run that you're seeing right now worked because of a surprising amount of challenge rifts and cursed chests, and an invisibility necklace. Why bother fighting enemies when you can just run past them? Death round 2. A lot more Malaise, a lot more potion charges, so I'm not going to argue. Also, I feel like I'm just getting better and better at actually dodging around death with the amount of times that I've had to do this run, which is a lot. It's so many. You might have thought that I maybe skipped past the subsequent run. No, you didn't miss too much. It really was that invisibility necklace. It makes a huge difference. I wouldn't be able to... I would still have maximum Malaise regardless. It's just it would have... instead of being 23 minutes into the run, which is already pretty long, would be, what, 40 minutes? 50 minutes or something? And that's, of course, not counting all the times that the timer pauses. Already pretty nice, though. 16 is good stats for this. Even though it might not seem too much like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm already on phase 2. I feel like that's saying something just alone. Those little mini sides, though. Those mini sides, I tell you. To be fair to death, though, I suppose it is a classic part of the fight. Original death back in Castlevania 1, of course. That was the entire fight. The little mini sides there. And given the controls of OG Castlevania, that's much more annoying to deal with. Let's just say that. Yeah, I played the first Castlevania game. It's fun. Honestly, the NES Castlevania games are some of my favorites. Mostly because Castlevania 3, between being able to switch around characters, it was also the origin of a lot of the really classic songs that they had in the series. And overall, they just put... There's so much stuff to see. Alternate routes and stuff like that. You know, multiple characters that you can play as. It's a lot of fun stuff. 2 potion charges, but hey, death is down. So I am satisfied with at least one of the harder bosses here. Matic I would probably consider to be the hardest, but death is definitely up there. Oh, and I should add here that after death, you have no access to the Fractured Shrines, so no legendary turret for me. And then I just died almost immediately to a curse in the Stilt Village, because this is the sort of nightmare run that I'm doing right now. Many more runs later, things aren't working out. This right here is a good example of that. I am inching my way through this Red Queen's race to clear out any part of the level, knowing that if I get hit, it's probably going to kill me. It feels like most of the enemies native to the biome are turning into elites, and even running away doesn't help with the amount of enemies that are spawning in at the same time. And of course, I don't have an invisibility necklace past this point to be able to just cheat my way through every biome. Enemies here are also able to rather easily destroy the turret, making a 10-second cooldown feel real long. Alright, what's the plan? How do you deal with this? So, on subsequent runs, I started to run through every biome, not worrying about fighting, until I get to an area where I can fight without having to worry about Malaise increasing. That is, any place that pauses the timer. Every shop and treasure room suddenly became an arena of life and death, keeping Malaise in check. There is hope for this run yet. Anyway, I just started to take Wish at the beginning of runs. That's 2 turrets, twice the firepower, and they can provide synergies with each other. Yeah, I didn't want to use the mutation slot. I knew I was going to get the legendary turret at the first boss or at the Fractured Shrines, but it's just not worth it given the difficulty. Yeah, it's really that simple. It makes such a huge difference. That's all I need to do. I did so many runs. I did like dozens of runs. Whatever. Look, it's working now. What better way to show how much easier it is than going up against the boss? Which is, of course, not death this time, because mini sides. Now, Concierge is the most predictable boss out of any of the first tier for good reason. No mini sides, no tick sides coming up from the ground in tune to the music for the Mama Tick fight. No conjunctivious bullet hell attack, which is pretty difficult to dodge. No, worst thing you get is the damage field, which is still something easier to dodge than any of those other attacks. Although with the conjunctivious, you can do enough DPS to kind of skip over that phase, but not with the turrets. Turrets are bad against flying enemies, just in general. Especially given the amount of times that I got bats exploding on me. Sometimes, even though you think that the enemy's directly in front of you, the turret does not. Well, there you go. Now I don't even necessarily need to go into the Fractured Shrines to get a legendary item, if I felt like that. I mean, if I wanted to, I still could. Oh, and as it turns out, I don't want to. Slumbering Sanctuary. Now, don't worry, I'm still going to be getting cursed. Don't worry about that. But an entire cursed biome? No. Nah. I do lose out on getting a potion charge from a shop on this route, but I also took corrupted healing for this exact situation. Although I never actually did get that extra potion charge from it during the course of the run. I definitely killed more than 12 elites, I can guarantee that. I think it's some sort of weird interaction with no mercy, not counting it as me killing the elites or something. I don't know. And hey, when you look at that, another invisibility necklace. Very nice. Despite trying very hard not to use Wish, there are not that many good mutations in this run. Damage increasing mutations affect damage over time stuff, but I don't think they were doing anything for the raw turret damage. Still, the fire damage did end up competing with normal turret damage when buffed up, so maybe there is something to that strategy. Yeah, things like No Mercy, Disengagement, and the like are good, but I'd say I got the most out of using Necromancy for the minimal heal after every enemy kill. Hey, I had no other consistent way to heal in this run after all. I decided to go for the Clock Tower next. I could have also gone for the Cavern. I wanted to go for the Cavern because the Giant is very weak against the turret build. The hands are taken out before they can even do an attack if you have even halfway decent stats and a couple turrets on you. However, turrets will not attack the eye. They can't hit them at all. You would think that they could because the eye seems to be roughly on the same level as the hands. But I tried going there on stream, tried fighting the boss. Didn't do anything. So it has to be the Timekeeper. Or the Scarecrow, but, well. So it has to be the Timekeeper. And the Clock Tower itself, hey, that works with the whole theming for Castlevania and everything like that, right? Right? Even though I haven't been doing anything with that theming since the start of the run. Well, going through the Clock Tower was easy. I had the invisibility necklace, the run was starting to come together, I was getting great damage. No issue at all, just running through right to the boss. And here we are, the Timekeeper. What's there to be said about this fight? She destroys the turrets really easily, and that is something of an issue. It means that I really should be trying to stay away from my turret setup as much as possible, so it's not getting hit by the golf swings constantly. Something that does happen a lot more as I get farther into this run. I feel like I never really realized how weak the turrets can be, usually because I'm killing enemies so quickly with the rest of my build at the same time. Other than that, dodging around, which I'm doing a terrible job of, no potion charges, really sets me up just absolutely fantastically for the next area. But whatever, was able to take down the boss easy. Shuriken's still kind of annoying. What you gotta do is you gotta jump and then roll. All right, I'm going to level with you. I can talk about the castle biome going okay and then dying against the Hand of the King because I ran out of potion charges, as you saw. But let's just move on to the somewhat more successful run. Yes, I died again in this nightmare run. Are you surprised? Oh boy, time to have barrels of fun. Yeah, castle was cursed, and I'm not going to a cursed castle. I mean, come on. I don't want to die 90% the way into the run, even if that means going to a distillery. And it is not nearly as bad as you would think. I have a decent amount of stats. The turrets are working really well. I could see that easily in the previous biome. Can see that easily here. I'm able to take out most groups of enemies, no issue. And of course, being able to stay far away from the living barrels certainly makes a lot of encounters here easier. That's the #1 way that I'm dying in this biome, after all. And I knew this would happen. Despite the first part of the run, turrets are powerful. They're good weapons. I fought death. To begin with. I was planning to go all the way to the queen when I first started this. I mean, you can see how that plan turned out, but the fact remains that the turrets are doing some real work here. Now, let's talk about how the run falls apart. Not in the sense of me dying, or even facing any real issue with the gameplay itself. I can't get through this wall. I need to reflect a barrel into this wall, and for that, I need to get an infected worker to throw a barrel, and then have that barrel get hit by my turret without killing the worker before that. Naturally, I tore through all of the workers at the wall, and I had to go elsewhere in the level to try and slowly pull enemies to that area, while Malaise kept spawning in more. The Malaise might have also spawned in an infected worker if I waited around long enough, but I'd still have to set up the very specific circumstance in which it could break the wall. So, long story short, it didn't work. I picked up the barrel launcher. Woo! Run failed! Yes! After all this, after all of that, it's just, this is how it turned out. Oh. I'm not going to be using it in battle. I'm going to see the run to the end, but I'll say this, I'm definitely not going to be going to the distillery on any future turret bomb power runs. Really, it was the most predictable way that could have gone. I knew I would need the barrel launcher for that. I guess I didn't want to go to the cursed castle. That's the real thing. I did not want to go to the cursed castle because it's just, curses are still the #1 thing that kills me compared to anything else. Hand of the King. I got good stats. 32 in the main stats. Pretty nice. The only real issue coming up here is that the Hand of the King will sometimes block hits, which, whatever. But do you see how much the double Crossb-o-matic, especially when I have 2 of them, are doing right now? No, the standards, though, a little bit of a problem because I can't, much like the mini-sides, I can't necessarily force my turrets to hit those, but when you got this sort of DPS, what does it matter, right? Yeah. And you can ultimately roll the explosions too. Not that I even had to worry about that here. All right, Astrolab, 3rd biome in a row that I'm just going to say it was quick. It was easy. Like the runs has really come together. There's not much more to be said about that. Most interesting bit that happened here was the 2 mini-boss chambers spawning very close together. It's fun. It doesn't really matter, but it is fun. Now the big question, did I manage to properly beat the Collector this time? Or did I just embarrass myself terribly? Because with 34 in the main stat, you would think that would be no real issue at all. But I think that Balance Blade run showed that, well, look at that DPS though. And that is just purely 2 turrets and also 1 other weapon. Don't pay attention to that one. It doesn't really matter. It's fine. All right. Look, I didn't use it. I didn't. Can't believe it's just, look, I did so many of these runs. Please let's just call it a day, okay? I'm trying to get these things out with some sort of level of consistency. If I had to do an entire extra run, like a full run here, it's too much. Anyway, hey, why are you going for that attack anyway? You are certainly ready to go into the next phase. Just do it. You should also really make sure that attacking those turrets as little as possible. Because, of course, much like all the other bosses at this point, can destroy them very easy, which is sort of an issue. Yeah, and then that's another full 10 seconds that I gotta wait till I'm able to throw out my only source of DPS here. Although I did pick up a necklace that does do fire on the ground when rolling, which is... I mean, it's damage. Well, so much for a perfect fight. This is why I took disengagement, of course, because of that exact sort of thing. Look, I still do not have a lot of damage right now, right? I am very much vulnerable to... Ooh, that was close. Very much vulnerable to getting hit at any point here. Yeah. Just jump and roll. Jump and roll. And still screw that up somehow. Okay, well, at least this is a good point to get a heal in. No, really? Okay, there we go. I was worried there for a second because it felt like it was taking a while to actually get the fantasy out of the collector's hands. And... Oh, come on! Like, one more hit! That's all you need. Ugh, whatever. And then the actual rolling fire is the thing that takes him out. You know what? I'm going to call that good. That's still... I would... Look, all I had to do was just wait a couple more seconds. The turrets would have been on the ground. Look, I win. I won. I won. That's it. Okay? What a goofy run. My God, it was so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be.